It's common knowledge that oil companies haven't exactly been an ally in our fight to save the environment. The extent to which some companies would go instead to save money and refuse to comply with environmental regulations is worth its own analysis. Take the example of Wood River Refinery and Sonico Incorporated, two oil companies who repeatedly find themselves in the crosshairs of the Environmental Protection Agency. The Wood River Refinery is located in Roxana, Illinois, and is owned and operated by the American corporation Phillips 66. The refinery processes a mix of light, low sulfur, heavy, high sulfur, and high acid crude oils. Sonico Incorporated is one of the largest independent fuel distributors in the United States of America, distributing fuels to 10,000 locations across 33 states. Over the years, both companies have been involved in several lawsuits filed by the EPA regarding environmental issues caused during their operations. In 2016, it was reported that the executives of Wood River Refinery agreed to pay a civil penalty of $125,000 and install new wastewater control systems after the EPA found that their refinery was discharging mercury, fecal bacteria, ammonia, and other such byproducts into the Mississippi River. Sonico was found guilty of contaminating wetlands, tributaries, and a 535-acre lake in Pennsylvania with thousands of gallons of drilling fluids. They agreed to pay $4 million to clean up their pollution. These cases had gone largely unnoticed by the public, and there are more cases involving Wood River Refinery and Sonico that, again, have gone unnoticed by the public, sparing them of the public outrage. And this is where it gets pretty complicated. Both of these cases I'm talking about involve a settlement with the EPA over the use of a combined 11 million, or $5.5 million per company, invalid Renewable Identification Numbers, or RIN, to meet the Renewable Volume Obligation, RVO, under the Renewable Fuel Standards, RFS. If that sounds complicated, it's because it is. Possibly deliberately so, but fear not, because I am here to help you understand the situation. First of all, what are the Renewable Fuel Standards, the RFSs? Well, they're a series of requirements imposed by the EPA regarding the amount of biofuel that should be made available to the public. According to the word of law, certain volumes of biofuels have to be blended into the fuel supply. The goal of such a policy is clear: to reduce the production and consumption of fossil fuels in order to stimulate the market of more environmentally friendly biofuels. These blending requirements are called Renewable Volume Obligations, RVOs, and are expressed as a percentage of renewable fuels that refiners and fuel importers have to blend into motor fuel. To rephrase it in a simpler way, fuel companies are required to have a certain portion of their fuel to be from renewable materials. Every batch of biofuels is assigned a RIN serial number, and as you may have guessed, obtaining each RIN number can be an expensive process. As a consequence, many companies have started to report fake RIN numbers in order to save money while still appearing to comply with the RVOs. The EPA launched a series of investigations in 2011 that led to the prosecution of millions of dollars worth of fraudulent RIN transactions, after discovering that several fuel producers hadn't actually produced the amount of renewable fuel claimed in their RIN transactions. To solve this discrepancy, the EPA enabled a volunteer program that allows third-party auditors to certify that fuel producers are in fact reducing the amount of biofuel claimed in their RIN transactions. Once the RINs are certified, they become known as QRINs, and the fuel producer is provided with a certain legal defense, limiting the owner's criminal culpability or civil liability if fraud or other criminal natures were ever discovered later on down the line. However, this process has not been extremely successful. As of 2018, only 12% of all RINs were QRINs. The rest have not been audited, and it is likely that several of them are still invalid and used for fraud. Wood River Refinery was caught doing this with more than 5 million numbers, and they paid a fine of $120,000, while Sonico, a much larger company that committed the exact same fraud with almost the exact same number of fake numbers, was only forced to pay $39,000. Either way, both fines are extremely minimal compared to the vast amounts of profits that these two companies make every single year, and it is unlikely that these small monetary sanctions will lead to any actual change. So this begs the question: how many other companies are actually complying with the EPA's policies regarding the production of biofuel? how much biofuel is actually available per year in the United States. We might never get the answers, and the fuel producers will likely never change their ways, because when the financial penalty of committing fraud is less than the profit made by committing fraud, then the financial penalty isn't actually a punishment at all. It just becomes the cost of doing business.